I started to learn what it meant to be a leader in about 1986, I think. I had graduated high school. I joined the Army because I heard that they would feed me every day and give me a job, and I needed both of those. And in the process of being a soldier, I saw the opportunity to be a leader. When I went up for promotion, the promotion board, I asked my first sergeant if I could go to the board, and he said, "Oh no, you're not ready. You haven't demonstrated leadership potential." And I said, "Okay, well, what do I have to do to be ready for the board?" And he said, "Well, you need to show leadership potential." I said, "Well, what do I need to do?" He said, "Well, you need to do some things like leading PT in the morning, calisthenics stuff, doing push-ups and stuff." I said, "Okay, can I do it tomorrow?" And he and others in the room, the senior NCOs, all laughed because I was so eager. And he said, "Not tomorrow, so-and-so's doing it." I said, "Can I do it the next day?" He said, "Okay." So I did it. And I learned that you should only count out the push-ups that you can actually do. It's embarrassing to be doing 4-count push-ups and then not be able to do it. But aside from that, it was fine. And I went to him and said, "Okay, I did PT. Can I go to the promotion board?" He said, "Oh, no, you only did it once. You need to do it more." And so I said, "Can I do it tomorrow?" And he said, "Okay." So I did it, and I went back to him, and this continued. He told me to do some other things, and I did those. And I just kept coming back to him and saying, "What else do I need to do? I'll do whatever you tell me to do to show leadership potential." I went to the board. I barely passed because I was not much of a soldier in terms of knowing soldiering things. I worked in supply, so it didn't really know. I think they asked me what the color yellow was on the terrain map, and I don't even, to this day, I don't know. I think it must be urine, but I don't know why they would mark urine spots on the terrain map. But anyway, there's a little story I want to tell you. So I became a leader. I got 2 new privates in the S4 supply, squadron level supply where I worked, and I took over kind of as their leader. And in the process, we had to get some things done. Sometimes we would need to go and get what's called a detail. A detail is when you're all standing in the formation in the beginning of the day, and I, representing S4, to ask the first sergeant for 4 people to work with me. In this case, we needed to move all of our supplies, and we were supply, so we had lots of them, big tents and meals ready to eat for 600 people for 30 days. So it's a big pallets full of MREs, meals ready to eat, and a whole bunch of other things. And I couldn't move it by myself. We had to use pallet jacks, and I needed a detail for a big project. So he agreed. And when they said we need a detail, I didn't know this until that day. They allowed me to stand in back of the formation, which normally I would be in the formation, so I could see what was going on with the NCOs, who oftentimes weren't in formation but in the back. And when he asked for a detail, I saw some of the E6s, usually E5s, E6s, pointing to people that work for them. In other words, saying, "Take this person, take this person." And it wasn't a big compliment to be selected, and I never saw it quite so overtly than I did that day, where people were actually being selected. Top was calling them out. Top is first sergeant, the person in front. So anyway, we all know when we're called out for a detail that I've just been picked to not go to my regular work and go to something where I'm going to work harder. So it's not a great day for you. So I had these 4 people working for me, and I got over to the old warehouse with them, and I explained what needed to happen. And I recognized that I just had corporal stripes on, and that was really not that much power. I could get them in trouble if I really needed to, but by the time that I went through all the steps to get them in trouble, I wouldn't have got my work done. I really just needed to get the work done, and it wasn't an issue of who has power, who has authority. And so I explained what needed to happen, and it was quite a bit of work. And I told them, when we get done with this, if we get done, if we have 2 hours left, I'm not going to return you back to work. We'll just hang out. And I started to load up pallets and move, and no one else did. We were all smoking cigarettes like crazy back then, and they would just sit and smoke. The whole warehouse was just full of smoke, and these guys were just shooting the breeze and not doing anything. And I said, "Well, all I can tell you is that I will work harder than anyone here. I guarantee you that. I'm not gonna, I can't make you work. I suppose if they didn't work for hours and hours, I would give up or something, or go get somebody, or follow some kind of procedure to get them in trouble. But I worked hard. I went all the way with my whole pallet. I went across the post to our new facility. I unloaded it. I came back and they hadn't moved. They were still just shooting the breeze. And I said, y'all can sit on your lazy butts, you know, or whatever. I was lighthearted about it, and I loaded up. I said, no one's going to work harder than me, I can guarantee you. I didn't know what else to do, really. It was just quite an accident. And one of the guys had put something a little bit on a pallet for some reason. I guess he was going to help, but he wasn't really committed. It wasn't a lot of work. Anyway, he goes, oh yeah? And he started loading his pallet, trying to load it faster than me. And he got his stuff loaded. He put like a large tent, and it got filled pretty quick. And he started racing, basically, to bring his over faster than me. I guess he was just going to do one round or something just to shut me up. And I raced him. And we actually had a great time. Some of our stuff was falling off the pallets. We didn't stop to pick it up. It was just left in the middle of the post. And we ran there, and we picked it up on the way back. And when we got back, we were already sweating, but also kind of laughing. It was fun. It made our time go fast. And we were loading again. And what do you know? Just spontaneously, this sort of caught on and picked up. And I guess the guy sat around and said, you know, I'm not going to sit here all day doing this. If I'm going to work, I might as well make it fun. And they kind of joined in. Well, pretty soon we had 4 guys and me all working so hard, and we got all the work done within 3.5, 4 hours from the morning roll call when we started. It was before lunch when we got done, and I kept my word to them. I'm sure that they felt like I would say, well, look, you know, we have the whole rest of the day, go to lunch, and then go back to your duty stations. But I didn't. I said, you did the work. So we hung out in the new facility with the new supplies all stacked. It looked beautiful. Everything was just where I had marked it and where I wanted it to be. And we were playing around. You know, we were soldiers, so that's what we do. We play soldier. And we had all these big pallets of meals ready to eat. So there were like barricades, and there were brooms around. So we ended up picking up the brooms, and we would pretend like they were weapons, and shooting each other, and stabbing each other, and just being silly. And just by horrible chance, I jumped out from behind one of the stacks of MREs with my broomstick rifle in hand, screaming, ah! And I saw that the door at the front, the human door, not the bay door that comes up, but the human door was opening. I saw the light shining in, and I could see a gold oak leaf on our XO's hat. I never talked to the XO or the commander, who was a lieutenant colonel. I was just a E4. I have any reason to, and they make me nervous, of course, like most of the soldiers. And the XO had come in to check on our progress, and here I was standing with this fake weapon, and he heard me scream, and I just let go of my right hand, and the broom went down, and I saluted him, and I walked over to him, and he said, why don't you give me a little tour of what you've done here? And I walked him around, and as I was walking him around the warehouse, there were 4 men in there that were hiding. And so they didn't want to appear because they knew how embarrassed I already was. And so as we would move around the warehouse, you'd hear this scurrying. I'm positive that the XO had to hear the guys hiding, moving around, but he didn't say a thing. I showed him everything, and he said, excellent job, Corporal. Looks like you did a great job. You must have had some great help. And I swear to God, I think he winked at me. And he saluted, I saluted, and he marched out. And the second that the door shut, the guys just erupted in laughter. It was such a joy. We spent the rest of the day smoking all the cigarettes we owned and just having a great time. Now, I wouldn't know really what that story meant if I didn't have one more encounter with these details. We needed another detail. I don't remember what we needed it for, but it was the same kind of thing where in the morning formation, First Sergeant Top is going to call out the people. And instead of having to wait for one of the NCOs in the back to point someone out, when he said, S4 needs a detail, there were 4 men who raised their hands. Oh, me, which is not really entirely what you do in a formation. It's kind of breaking the secret code. But I was so filled with joy that this encounter I had with them as this quasi-leader, I was playing the role as best I could, turned out to really instill really a sense of good faith and like, this will be work because we worked hard, but it will be rewarding, and I'm a man of my word, and not only will I work hard with you, I will make sure to protect you. You're my guys today. Not every day, just today. And we're going to have fun everywhere we can have fun. And that has conditioned my view of what leadership is more than any other thing that's ever happened to me, and far more than any other theory. I value theories a great deal. I'm a scholar in that I have a PhD, and I've published in leadership, and I like leadership a lot. I like the theories, but they're all colored by my own real on-the-ground experiences. And I think yours will be too. As you go set forth and be this leader that you're preparing yourself to be, if you've not already had these experiences, take stock of what's going on and how things work for you, what your experiences are, and then go back and revisit some of these theories and see how they fit in and apply. For instance, there's theories that talk about leadership by example. I'm sure you've heard of that before. You don't ask people to do the things that you're unable or unwilling to do. They need to respect that you have the same competencies you're asking them to employ. By and large, that's a good theory. Where does that show up in my example? Well, I led by example, and I saw that it earned the respect of those young men. I didn't have the position power to really just make them do what I wanted, but I was able to have power to influence them. And with the help of one person early on deciding that he was going to help me move, and we made that kind of a fun game, others joined in. And it's always been my preferred way to get people rallying around me to accomplish a task that is not particularly attractive, that we won't really want to do, but it needs to get done. So think about the experiences you have at work. They will be probably the richest context that you have for understanding leadership and why people follow others. And don't just think about the successes, think about the times when you have failed. I've had many, of course, failures to lead others, and I've learned so much from that as well. Okay, thanks.